Express your answers to the nearest tenths. We're going to do two problems. The first one, what percent of 375 is 67.5? And 9% of what number is 575? And I'm going to do each of these two ways, one with a proportion and one with an equation. So, first things first. What percent of 375 is 67.5? And I'm going to start with an equation. So when I see what percent, I think of x, because what I don't know. Of implies multiplication. So x times 375 means equals 67.5. Well, in solving this equation, I need to get x by itself. So if I divide both sides by 375, I get x equals 0.18. Well, that's a decimal. The question didn't ask for a decimal. The question asked for what percent. So remember, decimal to a percent, I can multiply by 100, which moves the decimal, and I end up with 18%. Now, that's the equation way. Proportion way, I see this problem and I see what percent. Well, percent is always out of 100, so I have x over 100. And then on the other side, I always have is over of. Of implies of the total, so total always goes on the bottom. So of 375, is goes on top, 67.5. You can also think this is over of as part to whole is another way to think about it, because you always want the total on the bottom. And then we cross multiply. So I get 375x equals 6,750. And same concept, I'm going to divide both sides by 375 to get x by itself, and I end up with 18, and I throw the percent on. Because I don't have to change a decimal or anything in this problem, because x is over 100, which implies percent, so I can just throw the percent sign right on it. You'll notice that either way, you get the same answer. In part B, I have 9% of what number is 1575? Well, let's start with an equation. Actually, let's start this time with a proportion. 9%. Percent is always over 100. Of what number? Of implies total, it goes on the bottom. Is the part, and it goes on the top. So when I cross multiply, I have 9x equals 1,575. This equal sign splits. I divide both sides by 9, and x gives me 175. Now, as an equation, when I see 9%, I can't play with a percent mathematically. I have to change that to a decimal. So 9% of means multiply. So I'm going to multiply by what number? I don't know. Is means equals 1575. So I'm ready now to divide both sides by 0.09 because I need to get x by itself, and that leaves me with 175. The math behind the two methods is very similar. The big difference is that when you use equations, you have to play a lot more with decimals and percents, and you have to do conversion between decimals and percents. Whereas in proportion, because you make it into a fraction and percents over 100, you never have to deal with those decimals. So that's the big difference between the two methods.